Here are 50 most commonly asked interview questions, along with detailed answers, for integration flow iFlow. Related topics in SAP CPI SAP Cloud Platform Integration Interviews. 1. What is an integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. An integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI is a graphical representation of an integration scenario that defines the flow of data between systems or applications. It consists of various components such as senders, receivers, mappings, and transformations, configured using a visual editor in the SAP CPI website. 2. What are the key components of an integration flow iFlow? Answer. The key components of an integration flow iFlow include: A. Sender adapter, specifies the source system or application from which data is received. B. Receiver adapter, specifies the target system or application to which data is sent. C. Message mapping, defines the transformation logic for mapping data between different formats or structures. D. Content modifier, allows manipulation of message content by adding, modifying, or removing message attributes or elements. E. Router, enables conditional routing of messages based on specified criteria. F. Splitter, aggregator, splits incoming messages into multiple parts or aggregates multiple messages into a single message. G. Exception subprocess, handles error scenarios and exceptions that occur during message processing. 3. How do you create an integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. To create an integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI, you can follow these steps. A. Log into the SAP CPI website. B. Navigate to the integration directory. C. Click on New and select Integration Flow from the menu. D. Define the sender and receiver channels, message mappings, and other components using the visual editor. E. Configure the necessary settings and properties for each component. F. Save and activate the integration flow to deploy it for runtime execution. 4. What are the different types of message processing modes supported by integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. The different types of message processing modes supported by integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI include: A. Synchronous, executes the integration flow synchronously, waiting for a response from the receiver system before completing. B. Asynchronous, executes the integration flow asynchronously, allowing the sender system to continue processing without waiting for a response from the receiver system. C. Sequential, executes the integration flow of a sequential manner, processing messages one after the other in the order they are received. D. Parallel, executes multiple integration flow steps concurrently, enabling parallel processing of messages for improved performance. 5. How do you handle message routing and conditional processing in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message routing and conditional processing in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be achieved using the router component. The router allows you to define conditions based on message content, headers, or properties, and route messages to different branches or subprocesses accordingly. 6. What is the purpose of the content modifier component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. The content modifier component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to manipulate message content by adding, modifying, or removing message attributes, headers, or payload elements. It is commonly used for enriching or transforming message data before it is processed by other components in the integration flow. 7. How do you handle error handling and exception handling in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Error handling and exception handling in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be achieved using the exception subprocess component. The exception subprocess allows you to define error handling logic, error handling policies, and error escalation strategies to manage exceptions and error scenarios that occur during message processing. 8. What is the purpose of the splitter? Aggregator components in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI. Answer. The splitter aggregator component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to split incoming messages into multiple parts or aggregate multiple messages into a single message. It is commonly used for message splitting, message aggregation, batch processing, and fan-out or fan-in scenarios. 9. How do you handle message transformation and mapping in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message transformation and mapping in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be achieved using the message mapping component. The message mapping component allows you to define the transformation logic for mapping data between different formats or structures, such as XML to JSON, XML to CSV, or XML to IDOC, using graphical mapping tools or XSLT mapping scripts. 10. What are the different types of adapters supported by integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. The different types of adapters supported by integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI include: A. SAP adapter, for integrating with SAP systems using IDOC, RFC, B. API, or SOAP protocols. B. REST adapter, for integrating with RESTful web services using HTTP or HTTPS protocols. C. SOAP adapter, for integrating with SOAP web services using HTTP or HTTPS protocols. D. JDBC adapter, for integrating with relational databases using JDBC protocol. E. File adapter, for integrating with file-based systems using FTP, SFTP, or file protocols. F. JMS adapter, for integrating with messaging systems using JMS protocol. 11. How do you monitor and troubleshoot integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. To monitor and troubleshoot integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI, you can use the monitoring dashboard in the SAP CPI web UI. The monitoring dashboard provides real-time visibility into message processing, message status, error logs, and performance metrics for each integration flow, allowing you to identify and resolve issues quickly. 12. Can you explain the concept of message persistence and message processing in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message persistence and message processing in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve the storage and processing of messages within the SAP CPI runtime environment. Messages are persisted in the message store until they are processed by the integration flow components, ensuring reliable message delivery and error handling. 13. What is the role of the message filter component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. The message filter component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to define filtering criteria based on message content, headers, or properties to selectively process or discard messages. It is commonly used for message routing, content-based routing, and message filtering based on specified conditions. 14. How do you configure message acknowledgements and message retries in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message acknowledgements and message retries in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be configured using the sender adapter or receiver adapter settings. You can specify acknowledgement modes, acknowledgement intervals, and retry policies to control message delivery and ensure message reliability and consistency. 15. What are some best practices for designing and developing integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Some best practices for designing and developing integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI include: A. Define clear integration requirements and objectives. B. Use standard integration patterns and design principles. C. Keep integration flows simple, modular, and reusable. D. Implement error handling and exception handling logic. E. Test integration flows thoroughly in different scenarios and environments. F. Monitor and optimize integration flow performance and scalability. 16. What is the purpose of the timer component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. The timer component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to schedule the execution of integration flow steps at predefined time intervals or specific points in time. It is commonly used for periodic data polling, batch processing, and scheduling recurring tasks. 17. How do you handle message encryption and security in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message encryption and security in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be achieved using secure communication protocols such as HTTPS or SFTP, along with encryption algorithms for data encryption and decryption. You can configure SSL certificates, security policies, and encryption standards to ensure data confidentiality and integrity during message transmission. 18. Can you explain the concept of message enrichment and data enrichment in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message enrichment and data enrichment in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve enhancing or enriching message content with additional data or metadata from external sources or lookup tables. It allows you to enrich message payloads with contextual information, reference data, or calculated fields to enrich the quality and relevance of the data being processed. 19. What are the different types of message protocols supported by integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. The different types of message protocols supported by integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI include A. HTTP, HTTPS, for integrating with web services and APIs using Hypertext Transfer Protocol, the HTTP or secure HTTP, HTTPS protocols. B. FTP ASFTP, for integrating with file-based systems using File Transfer Protocol, FTP or Secure File Transfer Protocol, SFTP protocols. C. AS2, for integrating with trading partners using the Applicability Statement to AS2 protocol for secure data exchange. D. JMS, for integrating with messaging systems using the Java Message Service JMS protocol for reliable messaging. E. OData, for integrating with OData services using the Open Data Protocol OData for RESTful API communication. F. SMTP POP3, for integrating with email servers using Simple Mail Transfer Protocol SMTP, or Post Office Protocol version 3 POP3 for email communication. 20. How do you handle message validation and schema validation in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message validation and schema validation in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be achieved using the validation component. The validation component allows you to define validation rules, schemas, and data formats to ensure that incoming messages comply with specified requirements and standards before further processing. 21. What is the role of the aggregator component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. The aggregator component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to aggregate multiple messages into a single message based on specified criteria such as message correlation or group identification. It is commonly used for batch processing, message consolidation, and fan-in, fan-out scenarios. 22. How do you implement message logging and auditing in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message logging and auditing in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented using the logging component. The logging component allows you to log message payloads, headers, properties, and processing steps to a central logging infrastructure, or external logging system for monitoring, troubleshooting, and compliance purposes. 23. Can you explain the concept of message routing and message transformation in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message routing and message transformation in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve directing messages from a source system to a target system and transforming message data between different formats or structures during transit. It allows you to route, filter, enrich, and transform messages dynamically based on specified criteria and business rules. 24. What are some common integration patterns used in integration flow iFlow design in SAP CPI? Answer. Some common integration patterns used in integration flow iFlow design in SAP CPI include: A. Point-to-point integration, direct communication between two systems or applications. B. Publish, subscribe, broadcast messages to multiple subscribers for asynchronous consumption. C. Request, reply, send a request message and wait for a response message from the receiver system. D. Batch processing, process messages in batches to optimize performance and resource utilization. E. Content-based routing, route messages based on message content, headers, or properties. F. Data enrichment, enhance message content with additional data or metadata from external sources. G. Error handling, handle errors and exceptions that occur during message processing. 25. How do you handle message retries and error handling in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message retries and error handling in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented using the exception subprocess component. The exception subprocess allows you to define error handling policies, retry strategies, and error escalation mechanisms to manage exceptions and error scenarios that occur during message processing. 26. What is the purpose of the dynamic configuration component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. The dynamic configuration component in integration flow iFlow SAP CPI allows you to dynamically modify message headers, properties, or routing information based on runtime parameters or conditions. It is commonly used for dynamic routing, dynamic message enrichment, and dynamic endpoint resolution in integration scenarios. 27. How do you implement message encryption and decryption in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message encryption and decryption in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented using cryptographic algorithms and secure communication protocols such as HTTPS or SFTP. You can configure SSL certificates, encryption keys, and security policies to ensure data confidentiality and integrity during message transmission and processing. 28. Can you explain the concept of message routing and message splitting in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message routing and message splitting in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve directing messages to specific processing paths or branches based on predefined criteria, and splitting incoming messages into multiple parts or segments for parallel processing or distribution to different endpoints. It allows you to route, filter, and distribute messages dynamically based on message content or context. 29. How do you implement message transformation and mapping using graphical mapping tools in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message transformation and mapping using graphical mapping tools in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented using the message mapping components in the SAP CPI WebID. You can define mapping rules, transformations, and data mappings visually by dragging and dropping elements from source to target structures and configuring mapping functions and operations as needed. 30. What are some best practices for optimizing performance and scalability of integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Some best practices for optimizing performance and scalability of integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI include: A. Use asynchronous processing for long-running tasks and parallel execution for concurrent processing. B. Minimize message payload size and complexity to reduce processing overhead and improve throughput. C. Implement caching mechanisms for frequently accessed data or lookup tables to improve response time. D. Monitor system resources, message queues, and processing bottlenecks to identify performance issues and optimize resource utilization. E. Scale out deployment nodes or increase instance sizes to handle higher message volumes and peak loads. F. Tune integration flow configurations, adapter settings, and processing parameters for optimal performance and efficiency. 31. How do you handle message acknowledgements and message retries in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message acknowledgements and message retries in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be configured using the sender adapter or receiver adapter settings. You can specify acknowledgement modes, acknowledgement intervals, and retry policies to control message delivery and ensure message reliability and consistency. 32. What is the role of the Secure Store Integration Flow iFlow development in SAP CPI? Answer. The Secure Store in Integration Flow iFlow development in SAP CPI is used to securely store sensitive credentials, encryption keys, and other confidential information required for authentication, authorization, and data encryption. It provides a centralized repository for managing and accessing secure credentials and keys used in integration scenarios. 33. How do you handle message batching and batch processing in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message batching and batch processing in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented using the batch processing component. The batch processing component allows you to group messages into batches based on specified criteria or batch size, and process them together in bulk to optimize performance and resource utilization. 34. Can you explain the concept of message correlation and message aggregation in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer. Message correlation and message aggregation in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve associating related messages or message parts based on common attributes or identifiers, and aggregating them into a single message or message group. It allows you to correlate, aggregate, and synchronize messages from multiple sources or endpoints for unified processing and analysis. 35. What are some advanced features and capabilities of integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI for complex integration scenarios? Answer. Some advanced features and capabilities of integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI for complex integration scenarios include: A. Message splitting and aggregation, splitting incoming messages into multiple parts, or aggregating multiple messages into a single message for parallel processing or batch processing. B. Dynamic routing and endpoint resolution, dynamically routing messages to different processing paths or endpoints based on runtime parameters or conditions. C. Content-based filtering and routing, filtering messages based on message content, headers, or properties, and routing them to specific processing branches or subprocesses. D. Message enrichment and transformation, enriching message content with additional data or metadata, and transforming message data between different formats or structures using graphical mapping tools or scripting languages. E. Error handling and exception management, handling errors and exceptions that occur during message processing, and implementing error handling policies, retry strategies, and escalation mechanisms for managing exceptions effectively. 36. How do you implement message transformation and mapping using XSLT mapping scripts in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: message transformation and mapping using XSLT mapping scripts in integration flow iFlow. In SAP CPI, it can be implemented by creating XSLT mapping artifacts in the SAP CPI WebID. You can define XSLT style sheets to transform message data between different XML-based formats or structures, including element mapping, attribute mapping, value mapping, and conditional mapping logic. 37. What is the purpose of the message filter component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: the message filter component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to selectively process or discard messages based on specified criteria or conditions. It is commonly used for message routing, content-based filtering, and message segregation, based on message content, headers, or properties. 38. How do you handle message acknowledgements and message deduplication in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: message acknowledgements and message deduplication in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented using unique message identifiers, message sequence numbers, or message correlation keys. You can configure acknowledgement modes, acknowledgement intervals, and deduplication policies to ensure message delivery and eliminate duplicate messages. 39. Can you explain the concept of message enrichment and data transformation using Groovy scripts in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: message enrichment and data transformation using Groovy scripts in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve writing Groovy script code to manipulate message content, headers, or properties dynamically. Groovy scripts allow you to perform complex data transformations, calculations, validations, and manipulations using a powerful and flexible scripting language. 40. How do you implement message encryption and decryption using PGP encryption in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: message encryption and decryption using PGP encryption in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented by configuring the PGP encryption, decryption components in the message processing pipeline. You can specify PGP keys, encryption algorithms, and key management settings to encrypt outgoing messages and decrypt incoming messages securely. 41. What is the role of the dynamic router component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: the dynamic router component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to dynamically route messages to different processing paths or endpoints based on runtime parameters or conditions. It is commonly used for dynamic routing, load balancing, and traffic distribution in complex integration scenarios. 42. How do you implement message splitting and parallel processing using multicast and multi-receiver components in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: message splitting and parallel processing using multicast and multi-receiver components in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented by configuring multiple receiver channels to process messages concurrently. You can specify parallel processing settings, message distribution policies, and error handling strategies to optimize performance and resource utilization. 43. Can you explain the concept of message enrichment and data validation using XPath expressions in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: message enrichment and data validation using XPath expressions in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve using XPath queries to extract, manipulate, and validate message content, headers, or properties dynamically. XPath expressions allow you to select specific nodes or elements from XML documents and perform data transformations or validations based on predefined criteria. 44. What is the purpose of the conditional router component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: the conditional router component in integration flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to define conditional routing rules based on message content, headers, or properties and route messages to different branches or subprocesses accordingly. It is commonly used for content-based routing, message filtering, and conditional processing in integration scenarios. 45. How do you implement message acknowledgement and message redelivery using dead letter queue (DLQ) in Integration Flow iFlow, SAP CPI? Answer: message acknowledgement and message redelivery using dead letter queue (DLQ), Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be implemented by configuring DLQ settings and error handling policies in the message processing pipeline. You can specify DLQ destinations, message expiration times, and retry intervals to handle undeliverable messages and manage message processing failures effectively. 46. What is the role of the content enricher components in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: the content enricher component in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to enrich message content with additional data or metadata from external sources or backend systems. It is commonly used for data enrichment, context enrichment, and reference data lookup in integration scenarios, where additional information is required for message processing. 47. How do you handle message versioning and compatibility in Integration Flow iFlow and SAP CPI? Answer: message versioning and compatibility in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI can be managed using version control mechanisms, schema evolution strategies, and backward compatibility checks. You can define message schemas, message formats, and versioning policies to ensure that changes to message structures or data models do not affect existing integration flows and message processing logic. 48. Can you explain the concept of message validation and data cleansing using regular expressions in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: message validation and data cleansing using regular expressions in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve defining pattern matching rules and validation patterns to validate, sanitize, or normalize message content, headers, or properties. Regular expressions allow you to perform complex pattern matching and string manipulation operations to ensure data integrity and consistency. 49. What is the purpose of the correlation identifier components in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: the correlation identifier component in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI allows you to correlate related messages or message parts based on common attributes or identifiers. It is commonly used for message correlation, message grouping, and transactional processing in integration scenarios where message ordering and integrity are critical. 50. How do you implement message enrichment and data transformation using JavaScript functions in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI? Answer: message enrichment and data transformation using JavaScript functions in Integration Flow iFlow in SAP CPI involve writing JavaScript code to manipulate message content, headers, or properties dynamically. JavaScript functions allow you to perform complex data transformations, calculations, validations, and manipulations using a versatile and expressive scripting language. In conclusion, the above 50 questions and answers provide a comprehensive overview of Integration Flow iFlow, related topics in SAP Cloud Platform Integration (CPI) interviews. These discussions cover various aspects such as message processing, routing, transformation, encryption, error handling, and best practices for designing and optimizing integration flows. Candidates can use this information to deepen their understanding of iFlow development and prepare effectively for interviews in this area.
For more exciting tips, tricks, and more importantly, for valuable insights of interviews, please share, like, and subscribe to my channel. It has a lot of valuable information about various insights of interviews. It has a wide range of real-world portfolio projects of various technologies for interviews, and it has wide range of most asked interview questions and answers of various technologies like data science, SAP, AWS, DevOps, and full-stack web development, and more. That will be useful during interviews. It has a wide range of most asked interview questions and answers, and real-world portfolio projects of various technologies for freshers. For 2 to 3 years, experienced candidates, and for 5 or above years, experienced candidates to test their skills by knowing most asked interview questions and make themselves ready for interviews.